Hi everyone, so this is a really fun poem this time. It is Simon Armitage's Kid, which is all about Batman and Robin, and he uses the concept of Batman and Robin and that kind of dynamic duo to explore how sometimes the people that we look up to when we are younger, we grow more and more disillusioned and jaded with when we get older and we recognise that maybe they're not the best role models. So it's all about forging your own identity and getting comfortable in your own skin as opposed to what you think you should be like when you look at these other people that you sometimes admire and aspire to be like. So first of all, Simon Armitage was born in 1963 in West Yorkshire. He studied geography at Portsmouth University and completed an MA at Manchester, where he wrote his dissertation on the effects of television violence on young offenders. Afterwards, he worked as a probation officer. This job influenced many of the poems in Zoom, his first collection, which was published in 1989. He then had various other jobs, including DJ and shelf stacker. His poetic style. Many of his poems contain puns and other wordplay. His poetry demonstrates a strong concern for social issues, as well as drawing on his Yorkshire roots. He likes to use the Yorkshire dialect and is interested in different dialects and slang, which hopefully you'll get to see in the poem that we're studying today. He writes about everyday events in a thought-provoking way, and he's often noted for his ear, meaning he has a strong sense of rhythm, metre and voice. Favourite themes? Family is an important topic, as is music. He likes to look at personal relationships, frequently drawing on his own life experience. He often uses the monologue form in his poetry to create immediate and moving characters, and his delivery is deadpan and sometimes darkly humorous. Writing credits. Armitage is not solely a poet. He has written scripts for film, television and radio, as well as fiction and non-fiction books. He pens the lyrics for his band, the Scaremongers, and he wrote the libretto for the opera The Assassin Tree. So he has quite a fair amount of accolades to his name. He has also translated the Middle English tale of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Homer's Odyssey from original Greek. Armitage was made a CBE for services to poetry in 2010, and he was elected Oxford University's Professor of Poetry in 2015. He lives in Yorkshire, dividing his time between writing and broadcasting. If you want to look at more contextual information, there is a really interesting Guardian article that is attached in the hyperlink in the PDF that has been used to record this video, and I will make sure that I put that up for you so that you can access it. I'm not going to read the poem because I don't think I could give it quite the vitriol that it deserves. But if you want to read through it yourselves, if you want to pause, if you want to try and find Simon Armitage reading it, because he can actually hopefully do it justice, then please feel free. However, once you read the poem, hopefully you notice the situation is that it's a dramatic monologue told from the perspective of Robin, the boy wonder. So, Batman's sidekick. He has connotations of naivety and is quite patronising or belittling, the loyal sidekick to Batman in the comic strips, the television programmes and the films. Robin talks about how he is separated from Batman and is learning to lead his own independent life in the process of breaking free from Batman's shadow. He publicises some of Batman's secrets so that we see the superhero in a new light, and it kind of seems that actually he's not really a superhero at all, but he's fallen from grace. The poem is often humorous, but it does have serious messages in that it addresses this theme of coming of age, as it follows Robin's attempts to come to terms with his own maturity and the impact that this will have on his relationship with Batman. At the end, Robin is stronger and more mature in many ways. This suggests that perhaps we sometimes seek out role models before we come into our own identities, but that we become jaded because these people aren't really what we expected initially, and we maybe paint them in a better light than they're really worthy of. So they're not really always the best people to model ourselves after. The structure and form, so hopefully you can see that it's one single stanza of 24 lines, which could represent Robin's resentment and bitterness towards his old role model. The lines are pentameters, so 10 syllables in each, and each line ends in an unstressed syllable, so it's not iambic, it's actually the other way around, which leads naturally to the last, the real boy wonder, with the stress on that final bit, the der. There's half or full rhymes throughout, and the effect is that the reader or listener is left to wonder what is coming next, and it increases the pace, adding to the humour of the poem, and I suppose also that bitter kind of ranting style, and the rhyme scheme mimics the theme tune as well, which is really interesting. Again, I won't be singing that for you, but I'm pretty sure you all know the iconic Batman theme tune. The line endings, every line ends with ER, so order, wonder, yonder. There is an internal rhyme too, as many words within the lines also end with ER, or uyor, gutter, rumour, elder, and this serves to increase the pace of the poem. The very last words of the poem, announcing that Robin is now the real boy wonder, on line 24, creates the climax of the rhyme scheme. There are very long sentences throughout, only really 5 sentences in the whole poem, increasing the pace and helps to convey the energy that Robin has now that he is free of Batman. Or his bitterness and resentment at realising that Batman wasn't who he thought he was. And now we are on to our line-by-line analysis. So first of all, if we look at the title Kid, it doesn't really give too much away. It's quite vague. It doesn't tell us anything about Batman and Robin. It's only when we actually read the poem that the identity of the kid becomes clear. However, the title does remind us of young people, so it perhaps suggests immaturity, adolescence, instantly evokes childhood and our childhood identities. And maybe that leads us to eventually realise that young people who are caught up in the shadow of someone they admire need to forge their own identity or cast off the identities that they've created once they finally mature and come into their own. So basically, we all must grow up and we all must seek out our own independence. Batman, big shot when you give the order. So if you look at that first line, you've got alliteration, you've got consonants throughout the entire poem actually, with all the O's, the E's, all the repeated vowel sounds the whole way throughout. But it sounds like he's spitting it out, emphasising this bitter, resentful tone. There's this idea of scandal or bad taste, and sexual innuendo, and fiddling the books, with that term, big shot. It suggests that Batman himself has this air of superiority, this arrogance, that he is someone special, someone influential, and really he's not. So it becomes quite a derogatory term when actually we realise that he's not worthy of that. And it is definitely used to condemn his actions. It reveals the power that he holds over Robin initially, but that Robin eventually casts that off. Then if we look at to grow up, then let me loose to wonder, we see that Batman has issued this order for Robin to basically leave him alone. So they've had some sort of argument and he's called Robin immature or something like that. We don't quite know. So he issues this imperative for Robin to grow up, presenting him as being arrogant and having a controlling personality that doesn't really care about how cruel that command sounds or the impact that it has on someone as young and potentially sensitive as Robin. The alliterative L sound, let me loose to wonder, could be symbolic of leaving home or the end of the relationship. And it emphasises the resentment which Robin feels and his disillusionment with his former role model. So basically, Batman isn't the person he thought he was. He isn't the person that Robin had admired previously. Leeward freely through the wild blue yonder, as you like to say, or ditched me rather in the gutter, well, I turned the corner. So leeward is a sailor term. In fact, you've got quite a lot of slang terms throughout, and there is a section where the slang terms and the different types of slang that we have melded together in this poem are actually explained. So I'll talk about that later. But this exaggerated, fanciful language, wild blue yonder, that is often used in cartoons, contrast with Robin's more down-to-earth colloquial language, ditched me in the gutter. And we can see how this is really about growing up and coming into a new identity, or your identity evolving, so to speak. Then he says, now I've scotched that he was like a father to me rumour, sacked it, blown the cover on that he was like an elder brother story, let the cat out of that on that caper. So you've got these cliched casual phrases, scotched, rumour, sacked it, blown the cover, let the cat out, showing that Robin delights in exposing Batman's flaws after his cruel treatment of Robin. The similes are cliched, they have a sarcastic quality to them, or sarcastic tone, emphasising his resentment of Batman's identity that previously overshadowed his own. Caper, so this is, punny, so he's punning here. So the pun suggests not only the capes they wore, but also the name associated with Batman, the Caped Crusader. But the term caper itself also suggests playful skipping movements or an illicit or ridiculous activity or escapade. So basically, Batman is actually the one that's immature, even though he seems to be suggesting that it's Robin that needs to grow up. So Robin's calling him out on that behaviour and suggesting that actually he is growing up, he is coming into his own identity without Batman's help. And then if we look at with the married woman, how you took her downtown on expenses in the motor, holy Robin, redbreast, nest egg shocker, holy roll me over in the clover. Robin's tone is condemnatory, as shown through the distancing determiner the and the adjective married. He also exposes Batman's secrets here. We learn that actually Batman is having an affair with a married woman. So this is continued through the euphemistic language, took her downtown on expenses, suggesting corruption, which was linked to earlier at the start, this idea of scandal, bad taste, fiddling the books, suggesting that he used his power and influence as Batman to woo this woman, and then he cooked the books to make it seem like actually it was some sort of business transaction. So it exposes him for who he really is. The euphemistic language, the sexual innuendo, shows how the supposed hero, Batman, happily had sex with a married woman, despite the moral implications or ramifications of that. This again suggests that people we look up to and aspire to be like can disappoint us, and that we are far safer forging our own identities rather than trying to be like someone else. Motor is British slang, and it's used to explore how Batman has sullied the Batmobile for his seedy, adulterous affair, as opposed to actually using it for heroic purposes, like, driving around Gotham and saving people. Batman was American, so the fact that you've got these different slangs merging, British, American later on, the kind of naval or sailor-esque one earlier, reinforces the speaker's desire to forge his own identity and break away from the one that he was initially aspiring to be like. Lines 12 and 13, so holy Robin Redbreast, nest egg shocker, holy roll me over in the clover, are spoofs or parodies of tabloid headlines. Holy is obviously, of course, an adjective that Robin used a lot when he said things such as, holy smoke, Batman. And here Armitage has exaggerated it for comic effect, and the new Robin seems to be making fun of his old self, as well as mocking Batman, who has this illicit, inappropriate affair with a woman who he's rolling over in the clover. So again, that sexual innuendo there, and the fact that Batman is not the man that Robin thought he was. I'm not playing ball boy any longer, so this is an alliterative metaphor with that plosive B sound. He refers to himself to always being the one who did all the work, like a ball boy in a game, rushing after maybe a tennis ball or something like that. But he's underappreciated. The plosive B sounds create a resentful tone and highlight his scorn of his old role model. He's fed up of this game that's supposedly being played, and he doesn't really want to serve anyone anymore. He wants to come into his own. He wants to forge a new identity for himself, separate from Batman. Now I have doffed that off-the-shoulder Sherwood Forest green and scarlet number. So the verb choice doffed emphasises his disgust at having once admired Batman and having been so willing to be his sidekick. There's clear self-ridicule in his mocking description of his sidekick outfit. This is perhaps a commentary or criticism of the identities that we used to have and how sometimes it is important for our identities to change or evolve as we grow older and more mature. For a pair of jeans and crewneck jumper, so you've got the juxtaposition of something very sensible in terms of the outfit or ensemble. And then you've got the really garish colours of his childish sidekick outfit. And this marks his move into maturity, this transition to adulthood or this coming of age as he ages and finds his new sense of self as he starts to grow up. Now I'm taller, harder, stronger, older. The comparatives emphasise his strength, his dominance, his superiority, as he makes an identity which is separate from the one he adopted when he was emulating Batman and trying to be like Batman, essentially, and engaging in hero worship. The speaker is growing as a person, and his identity is not fixed or static, but changes as he matures and gains new experiences and evolves as a person. So he's growing up. Then we are told, Batman, it makes a marvellous picture, you without a shadow stewing over chicken giblets in the pressure cooker. So the alliteration makes a marvellous, and the noun picture raises the question, is this all in Robin's imagination? You without a shadow, so there's ambiguity in this line, as the metaphor could suggest that Batman has become a shadow of his former self, suggesting he's declining, and he cannot cope on his own without Robin. That despite, the terrible things he said to Robin, he actually needs Robin to survive somehow. It also suggests, though, that Robin used to be his shadow, mimicking everything Batman did, this idea of hero worship and emulating your idols. Robin was unimportant to Batman and someone who Batman enjoyed being worshipped by as it flattered his ego, but now he's lost him, and actually it turns out that it's not Robin who's the pathetic one, it's Batman. Next to nothing in the walk-in larder, punching the palm of your hand all winter. The alliteration, both the next to nothing and the the plosive, punching the palm, creates bathos, showing that he used to rely on Robin to shop for food. Now, we have talked about pathos before, Pathos, and that is literary sympathy. Bathos, Bathos, is a literary term for an anticlimax, basically. Usually created by an unintentional lapse in mood from the sublime to the trivial or the ridiculous. So really what this is saying is that this great height of being a hero that Batman initially had, this pinnacle of success, he has fallen from, and he's now this ridiculous, pathetic, lonely man as opposed to some sort of fantastic hero. This line gives the image that Batman has been reduced to this mean image of him stewing chicken giblets or giblets. He's pathetic, he's lonely, and it shows that he's let himself go and he just doesn't care anymore. You baby, now I'm the real boy wonder. So the pun phrase on boy wonder, because that's what Robin was called in the TV show and the comic book series. So Robin has managed to break free of his idol. It's ironic that he calls Batman a baby, an American slang term, in the final line, because although it's usually a term of endearment, he uses it to belittle Batman and I suppose emasculate him in many ways. Robin the kid has grown up, while Batman the superhero has diminished to a baby. The phrase boy wonder has a new meaning because Robin has managed to break free of his idol and become the one with promise or potential. He has gained maturity, and this has caused his identity to change. So now that we've done the line-by-line analysis, if we look at the variant slangs, there's loads of slang the whole way throughout, loads of colloquialisms. Wonder, leeward is naval slang. The word baby is American, and then British, the ordinary word motor for the fantastical Batmobile. The mixture of styles adds humour and perhaps helps to illustrate the growing up process. Robin himself is trying out a mixture of different things in his quest for discovering who he really is, his real identity. The time references in the poem, which relate to the 1930s and 40s, you've got Kid, Big Shot, Wild Blue Yonder, and Caper, all come in the form of topical allusions or references to the TV show, the old Batman movies, and I suppose the comics as well. Now finally, if we look at tone, there's loads of different tones the whole way throughout this poem. You've got bitter, Robin is angry that Batman has prevented him from growing up for so long. Thoughtful, he's reflecting on his experiences with Batman. Triumphant, showing his delight that he is free from Batman at last. Batman, however, is anxious, punching the palm of his hand. Frustrated with boredom but unable to take action. And there's also a boastful tone emphasising how Robin relishes the power that realising these secrets has given him over Batman. And the casual language, scotched, doffed, whatever else, all kind of makes it sound as if it's an adolescent showing off to his friends or his mates. The casual use of motor to describe the Batmobile also suggests that he's trying to impress us, to show us how he's come into his own. So themes, there is a serious message behind the comedy. We are all encouraged to consider whether heroes and hero worship can really sustain young people growing up. However marvellous the admired person may be, a young person has to learn to be independent. They have to learn to be taller, harder, stronger, older, and to live their own life.